welcome everyone to Books in Focus. We're going to be reviewing books that are going to be coming out next month in November. I'm Christine, and I'm joined by Nicole and Patrick. Okay. All right, these are the books that we're pretty sure will be bestsellers right out of the box and have all familiar names, I'm sure. Going Rogue by Janet Ivanovich, it's number 29.
I would have thought 350 first.
Yeah. In her Stephanie Plum. And in her scorching, riotous way, Ivanovich presents a whole new side of Stephanie Plum. She breaks the rules, she flirts with disaster, and she shows who's boss.
That's nothing new.
Nothing new? I've not read it. That's what I read in the, Desert Star by Michael Conley. This is the 5th Ballard and Bosch. This gripping crime novel brings Ballard back to the force to run an open, unsolved crime unit. And soon she finds herself chasing multiple killers all at the same time. Rice Bowen, Peril in Paris. This is number 16 in Royal Spinous Mysteries. Lady Georgiana and her husband Darcy are expecting their first child, and Georgiana is bored. So a trip to Paris breaks the monotony of waiting and also puts them on a new case.
Is her, you need to read them in sequence?
I don't believe you do.
Okay.
I've read a few, but I haven't read them in sequence.
Yeah, I've read a couple, but yeah, not in sequence.
I'm trying to figure out from the cover what the time element is for that, Christine. Do you know? Is it after World War I?
It's in Coco Chanel's time.
Oh, okay.
Because what's revealed in this book is Georgiana is also a friend of Coco Chanel.
Okay.
So early 1900s, I guess. The Perfect Assassin by James Patterson and Brian Sitz. Dr. Savage and his Professor Mead are finding their lives deeply entwined. They join forces to prevent a new class of killers, and they pledge to do right at all times and do wrong to no one. See if they're able to live up to that.
Heartwarming. So the next one is the 4th in the Hawthorne and Horowitz mystery series. It's The Twist of a Knife. There's a duo of investigators in this series that might be splitting up in this one, but the death of a theater critic forces them to reunite. And you'll see the theater ticket here on the cover of the novel. We have Nora Roberts. The Choice is the 3rd in her Dragonheart Legacy trilogy. So this is the finale, and we'll have to see main character Breen come into her full power and go on a rescue mission to help save her land, is the impression I got. The Whittiers by Daniel Steele. Maybe something to read around the holidays as adult siblings gather for a wintry trip after the loss of their parents. Promises to be emotional and heartwarming. And then Louise Penny here. This is number 18 in the Chief Inspector Armand Garmanche series. Beloved Inspector is back, solving the mysterious return of 2 lost children in Quebec's Three Pines region. So lots of bestsellers to get on the hold list for. We have some nonfiction hot picks as well.
So how do we know ourselves? Curiosities and Marvels of the Human Mind by David G. Myers. This one's a delightful tour of the wonders of our humanity from David G. Myers, the award-winning professor and author of psychology's best-selling textbook. This is basically him pulling insights from the most current psychology research. The Last Campaign by H.W. Brands. So Brands is a best-selling author of history. This one's about the lives of William Tecumseh Sherman and Geronimo, the Apache leader, as well as the story of the Indian Wars. Then you have Vigilance. This is about an unknown abolitionist named William Still, who helped manage part of the Underground Railroad in Philadelphia. And the Grimke's. We were talking about the Grimke's earlier. So they are apparently well-known historical figures abolitionists. They grew up on a southern plantation, but then left that life to fight against slavery. This book sheds light on their black relatives who have, up to this point, I guess, gone overlooked in the retelling of their story. There's a new biography about Emperor Nero coming out, Matricide, Music, and Murder in Imperial Rome. This one is being advertised as nuanced and striking. So, then we have The Light We Carry, Overcoming in Uncertain Times by someone named Michelle Obama. Never heard of her? In this one, she's kind of giving tips for how to stay hopeful. And then Mike Pence has a book coming out, So Help Me God, in which he talks about his working with President Trump and the breakdown of that relationship after the 2020 election. And then lastly, A Coastline is an Immeasurable Thing, a memoir across 3 continents by Mary Alice Daniel. This one is a coming-of-age memoir about a young woman who grew up, well, at least was born in Nigeria, moved to England, and also moved to California over the course of her young life. And in that book, she explores themes like family, race, and religion. So that's the new nonfiction. Now we're going to dive right into the new books we have to share today. So, I forgot my paper. Blackwater Falls. So this author, Khan, she's written one other mystery series, and this is the first book in a new mystery series. We have a star Syrian high school student whose body is found laid out ceremoniously at the local mosque in the small mountain town of Blackwater Falls, Colorado. This case brings attention to earlier disappearances of immigrant girls who up to this point have gone overlooked by the local sheriff. The murder falls under the jurisdiction of a special Denver Police Department unit for cases involving minority groups, and Detective Inaya Rahman is assigned to the case. So the story is told mostly from her perspective. She's recently moved to Blackwater, and the book also kind of explores her struggle with reconciling her Muslim faith with her career in law enforcement. Publishers Weekly says, Khan brilliantly depicts the complexities of her characters and the tensions of a multicultural American community struggling with bias, fear, and corruption. At once suspenseful, moving, and thought-provoking, this is not to be missed. Now, if you want to start with her first series, this is the first book in that series called The Unquiet Dead. This won a couple of awards when it came out, I think in 2015. You have Detective Rachel Getty investigating the possible murder of a war criminal in that book. And another read-alike would be Run You Down by Julia Dahl. In that one, you have a tabloid reporter who's drawn into the world of her estranged mother and ultra-Orthodox Judaism after she is asked to look into a mysterious death. Be right back.
Well, that's an interesting title.
Yeah. Dead in Gondola. So this is another first in a new series. This series you have Ellie Christie, along with her sister Meg and their cat Agatha, who run a family bookshop in Colorado called the Book Chalet. Sounds very nice. A man is found dead on a local ski gondola, just as the town is locked down due to a landslide. The same mystery man had left behind a signed Agatha Christie book during his earlier visit to the bookshop. So Ellie has to use all of the mystery-solving skills she's gathered from her favorite mystery author and get to the truth. Quote, a fair play plot, vivid characters, fascinating facts about Dame Agatha, and an intelligent and appealing protagonist make this a winner. Cozy fans will chomp at the bit for more. So if you like book-themed cozy mysteries, you might also try the book lovers' Bed and Breakfast Mystery Series by Victoria Gilbert, one of which I have due, called Past Due for Murder. Or perhaps the Magical Bookshop Mystery Series by Amanda Flower, and as an example, Murders and Metaphors.
Nobody wants that murders and metaphors, pass it here.
Going once, going twice? There you go.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Foster by Claire Keegan. This is a story is a winner of a Davy Burns Memorial Prize for Short Stories, and the author has expanded it into a 96-page novella. And the literary world is very excited about this. It's set in rural Ireland, and a young girl is sent to live with foster parents, and in the stranger's home, she finds warmth and affection that she's not known before. She slowly begins to blossom in their care, and then a secret is revealed, and suddenly she realizes how fragile her idyll is. Beautiful, sad, and eerie, Foster is a story of astonishing emotional depth, showcasing Claire Keegan's great accomplishment and talent. Read-alikes for this would be, that I chose would be Greengrass's The High House, and that's an emotionally precise novel about orphaned siblings, a climate disaster, and what can be salvaged at the end of the world. And the inspirational area I found Paper Angels, which is about a 43-year-old husband and father who stumbles across the Salvation Army's angel tree, and he selects a name, and the story develops into two intertwined stories about family life and hard times, the hope of Christmas, and the goodness and compassion of loving hearts. I believe this is maybe like a Hallmark movie, not sure, but I think that I've seen it floating around.
Next up, we have a debut novel. Michael X. Wang is getting rave reviews for Lost in the Long March. This sounds interesting to me, as I've not read a lot of fiction books that take place in China in 1930s. So it'll be a unique setting if we need something different. It's an interesting look at a family trying to survive during the Long March and Mao's rise to power. We're going to meet Ping and Yang, who are part of the army during the long year's retreat known as the Long March. This is not a war book focusing on violence and weaponry and action scenes, but rather it explores the day-to-day kind of boring things and life things that still happen amidst war. Ping and Yang must survive unexpected things and must endure to protect themselves and their loved ones. So some read-alikes from the new shelf. The House with the Gilded Door takes place in Greece back forever ago, and it talks about the slaves trying to escape the life that they're having in Greece. And then we also have The Orchard of Lost Souls, is 3 women trying to survive during the Somalian Civil War. Not necessarily feel goods, but very interesting topics. I also have Meredith Alone for the next one. This is also a debut novel. Some interesting read-alikes for this one. I think we've seen separation anxiety as part of Books in Focus before from Laura Zigman, and then we've all had maybe some exposure to Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. And these are unique characters dealing with their lives in unique ways and overcoming obstacles that we can all relate to. So they're kitschy, quirky characters, just like Meredith here. Meredith has taken full advantage of the interesting years we've had. She's got a full-time remote job. She's got a cat named Fred she's adopted. She's got some hobbies. She's got some virtual meetups. She's got a best friend, Sadie. She hasn't left the house in over 3 years, though. What is keeping Meredith at home, and what compelled her to stay in the first place? We need to get to know her and see what's going on. Meredith promises to be a heartwarming character, and hopefully she will find the courage to venture out and start her life afresh again. I have the next one. Taking a turn here. I think Carol was saying they're all mixed up this time, all the different genres. So this one's gonna be a bit dark. A Blair Braverman usually writes nonfiction. So we have a couple by her. I like this one, Welcome to the Goddamn Ice Cube. It is going to be a read-alike for Small Game, as they're both about what can happen when you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere and you have some unexpected things happen. More on the horror side, it's gonna read like anything Adrian McKenty writes, because Adrian writes about really weird, really scary, all too realistic, but extreme situations that people get put in and have to figure out. So Small Game is a wild thriller focusing on a survival show gone wrong. 4 strangers in 6 weeks is all that is separating Mara from a life-changing, prize-winning paycheck. She's a contestant on Primal Instinct, and her ragtag band of castmates have to survive off the land for 6 weeks. One morning, something goes horribly wrong, and they all kind of assume it's a task that they have to figure out, and then they figure out that the producers are not pulling the strings behind this one, and their survival takes on a whole new meaning in this fast-paced, gripping story. Someday Maybe.
These read-alikes up here, I'll give you a big hint to where we're going with this one. Someday Maybe, coming out on November 1st, is a thought-provoking, deeply emotional novel about one young woman's journey through unimaginable loss after her husband has killed himself on New Year's Eve. And she is not okay. And that's what we're gonna read about, how her life changes. As with the Stuart Woods Dark Harbor, in that one, Stone Barrington is investigating the murder or the suicide death of his cousin, and he's not real sure the whole thing is as it's reported. His cousin Dick Stone had doubled as a CIA agent. He was a family man, and according to the accusations, he methodically executed his wife, his daughter, and then killed himself. So Stone is conducting this investigation, and at every step he knows he's being watched by Dick's family, and one of them just might be the killer. And then Dean Coates' The Whispering Room also follows a young woman after her husband's suicide, and she is driven by her love for her husband, also by fear for her 5-year-old son. And those she is hunting will have nowhere to run when her shadow falls across them. To Fill a Yellow House. This is on, I'm sorry, I don't have the author's name on it. I'm sorry. To Fill a Yellow House by Susi Ani. It is a story about a shop in London where fewer and fewer people are shopping. It is called The Chest of Small Wonders. It is a second-hand depository for unwanted possessions, or an eclectic charity shop on the high street in London. Rupert has run the chest for decades, but since his wife's death several years before, he's struggling to keep their dream of the shop alive. Young Quasi is new to the neighborhood and he regularly visits Rupert and his shop to kill time. An unexpected friendship develops between the man and the boy, a relationship that gives each a new sense of belonging. To fill a yellow house is as vibrant and surprising as the city it is set in, and marks the arrival of a bright and bold new talent. It's lyrical, witty, and moving, and it's a story of community, friendship, and the power of creativity and connection. I'm gonna review one. The next book I review, I cited it as a read-alike because it has a very similar story. And then another read-alike for this, it would be a band called O, or I don't know, probably anything by Bachman. I have not read it all, but I did read this one. About an angry old man next door, and how we can have a profound impact on countless others throughout our lives. So probably most of Bachman's. All right. Next we have We Are the Light by Matthew Quick. His name sounds familiar. He also wrote the Silver Linings Playbook. His work is described by the Boston Herald as like going to your favorite restaurant. You just know it's going to be good. We Are the Light is an unforgettable novel about the quicksand of grief and the daily miracle. I'm on your way. I'm sorry. We Are the Light is an unforgettable novel about the quicksand of grief and the daily miracle of love. Lucas Goodgame lives in Majestic, Pennsylvania, a quaint suburb that's been torn apart by a recent tragedy. Everyone sees Lucas as a hero, everyone it is except himself. Insisting that his deceased wife Darcy visits him every night in the form of an angel, Lucas spends his time writing letters to his former Jungian analyst Carl. When he connects with Eli, an 18-year-old outcast, an unlikely alliance takes shape, and the two embark on a journey to heal their neighbors and, most importantly, themselves. The humorous, soul-bearing story of Lucas Goodgame offers an antidote to toxic masculinity and celebrates the healing power of art. This tale will stay with you long after the final page is turned. So for read-alikes, I did bring the Silver Linings Playbook. Takes a look at loneliness and love in its refreshing way. It was very popular as a book and a movie. And I also brought Joyce Maynard, Count the Ways. And I brought this one because this is a story of families in transition, holding on and learning to let go.
Light. It's the third work of fiction from Lynn Steger Strong. I brought her first one, Hold Still With Me, because it sounded the most similar. But for fans of J. Courtney Sullivan that like those interesting family relationships and seeing how family drama can play out over the years, check out this author because you may enjoy her as well. This one also, a read-alike could be The Whittiers by Danielle Steele that's coming out because it sounds kind of the same premise. Two very different authors, though. They're gonna have different approaches. This one is also gonna be about siblings reuniting in upstate New York for the first Christmas without their mother. Old resentments simmer beneath the surface as holiday rituals are performed and the grandkids run about. The group is surprised by a neighbor in need and needs to come together during these trying times. It's described as suspenseful and moving.
one is a fun, clever blend of psychological thriller and police procedural with interestingly dysfunctional characters. It's New Year's in Wales, and a disliked wealthy owner of a lake house is found dead in the water. It's a small community, and everyone is a suspect. Local girl detective Fionn Morgan of North Wales Police is assigned the case, and because the lake the body was found in is between Wales and England, she's also joined by a representative from the England Police Department, Leo Brady, whom awkwardly she just had a one-night stand with on New Year's Eve. So this situation only adds to the already there social tension that exists between Wales and England, I guess. If you are looking for more in like the mystery thriller vein, you could try Alice Feeney in general. Also for something that's more of the police procedural side of things, but also has that thriller aspect to it, you could try the Alex Delaware series by Jonathan Kellerman. Murdered Black Oaks. This one's the 6th book in the Robin Lockwood series. So Robin Lockwood is a defense attorney, and in this book, he does a favor for a retired district attorney, Francis Melville, who wants help overturning the conviction of Jose Alvarez, a man he put away for murder, but has since discovered that he is innocent of the crime. Lockwood, again the main character, succeeds in clearing the man's name, and then by way of celebration, Melville has a party, a get-together at the Black Oaks Manor, the mansion he owns in the Oregon mountains, that is allegedly cursed. Among the invitees are Lockwood, of course, and also the newly released but bitter Jose Alvarez. So when Melville is murdered, it's up to Lockwood to identify the killer. One reviewer compared recommended John Dixon Carr as a real-like. I had not ever heard of John Dixon Carr, but he wrote books in the 30s, one of which is here, The Corpse in the Waxworks. So if you like classic mysteries, that might be something to check out. Another read-alike would be Blood Flag by Steve Martini. Steve Martini writes a series of legal thrillers featuring attorney Paul Madriani. And in Blood Flag, Madriani is drawn into a treacherous conspiracy dating back to World War II.
So I've not personally read Kevin Wilson before, but he's definitely on my radar of people to check out. He's constantly reviewed as having interesting characters and this unique sense of humor and wit. So he might be a fun one. If you need something lighter to read, you know we're getting a little dark here. This one, Now Is Not the Time to Panic, is going to be focused on 2 teenagers in a small town in Coalfield, Tennessee. They are bored, it's summer, school's out, they're kind of misfits, they're kind of loners, they meet, they start hanging out, they have a love of art. They work together to make this poster, and they don't sign it, and it gets published, and then it gets copied, and then it gets passed around and printed somewhere else and shared on the internet, and whiz bang boo, it is all over town, and all the townspeople are talking about it, and they want to know who made it, and everyone's got an opinion, and it's leading to quite the controversy. Years later, the kids have grown, they think they've put it in their past, but somebody from their past emerges back in their lives to mess with their heads a little bit and interrupt their life's trajectory. It's described as a bold coming-of-age story with Kevin Wilson's usual wit. So I got his most recent title, Nothing to See Here. This is about a family, and I believe one of the children has the superpower of burning things, literally, or the child can throw fire. Something flammable is happening.
I think they burst into flames when they get upset.
That's even more violent than I was imagining, but it's told in like a funny way, you know? Also, Matt Haig has written these interesting characters. Of quirky, likable, strange families, would be some great read-alikes for Kevin Wilson.
Not related to Boo Radley, is it the character that, I mean, you know,
No, I think it's not related to Radley at all.
different Radleys.
Let's see. Yeah, this one's about looking over the fence and finding that your neighbors are really strange, so I think that's an interesting family next door. No. The Other Sister is described as a noir mystery. It is a sequel, so if it sounds of interest to you, be sure and grab the bucket list. This is the first in the series from these two, I believe, Swedish authors. They've worked together on The Other Sister. It's gonna be a twisted tale of two sisters. One is the beautiful Stella, she's very successful, and the other is Alice. Alice has a facial disfigurement, and she hides and makes her slightly embarrassed. She is finding success at work though. She's starting a company online, she's starting an app. Something tragic happens to Stella, and Alice is forced to consider and investigate whether it is a random act or if she is next. It is described as dark, suspenseful, and a psychological to check out book. If this sounds of interest too, I brought The Night Singer, which is about a sister family tragedy bringing a police detective home as well.
So what's the bucket list about?
The bucket list, so the string through the series is gonna be the agent that helps figures out these mysteries, John Adderley. He wakes up in a Baltimore hospital with gunshot wounds, knowing he's lucky to be alive, and he doesn't know who the man next to him is. So it sounds more of a shooting accident gone wrong, and they have to figure out what happens there. So I think the investigator is the common thread in this series, not necessarily the sisters are related to this, but the investigator.
So that's more of a mystery then, the bucket list?
Yes, the other sister is a mystery too. She has to figure out what happens to her sister. Do you want to peruse it more closely, perhaps?
Sure.
Why not?
Okay. The resemblance. The Resemblance is a debut novel written by a college professor that's described as a fun read with surprising twists. The book is set at the University of Georgia, and the first person narrator and our protagonist is 29-year-old homicide detective Marlette Kaplan. The crime is this: a fraternity brother has been killed in a hit and run by a driver who witnesses say looked just like him and was driving his car. Marlette is an Athens local with an obsessive dislike for fraternities due to things that have happened in her past, and is convinced that Kappa Phi Omicron is involved in the student's death. If you like, the campus setting and murder, you might also try The Sorority Murder by Allison Brennan. That one's about a young woman who is obsessed with the murder of a student who disappeared for 2 weeks after a sorority party. Another read-alike would be The Likeness by Tana French. I'm not sure how you say her first name. This, of course, is the audio CD version of it, the not so great cover, if you ask me. But in this book, the detective investigates the murder of a young woman who looks just like her. So. A Sliver of Darkness by C.J. Tudor. This is a short story collection of, quote, bone-chilling and mind-bending tales. I'm just going to read the description of some of the stories from the publisher. In The Lion at the Gate, a strange piece of graffiti leads to a terrifying encounter for 4 school friends. In Final Course, the world has descended into darkness, but a group of old friends make time for one last dinner party. In Runaway Blues, thwarted by love, revenge, and something very nasty, stowed in a hat box, converge. In Gloria, a strange girl at a service station endears herself to a cold-hearted killer, but can can a leopard change its spots? And in I'm Not Ted, a case of mistaken identity has unforeseen fatal consequences. So that's just a taste of some of the short stories you'll find in this book. It's recommended for fans of The Twilight Zone. If you're looking for more in the way of creepy short story collections, you could try either these, Growing Things by Paul Tremblay, or If It Bleeds is a short story collection by Stephen King.
We All Want Impossible Things is going to be a tearjerker. Have your tissues ready, because we're gonna get to know Edie and Ashley, who have been friends for 40 years. Through the good and the bad, they've survived it all, but now Edie is losing her battle with cancer. The two reminisce, we get to know both interesting characters, and we're gonna meet an interesting rotating cast of characters throughout their lives, and then also even in the hospital, there's gonna be an interesting group of characters as well, as they celebrate and struggle with life. Catherine Newman usually writes uplifting kind of family nonfiction and is known for her humor in those pieces, so this is a bit of a departure for her. I brought one down I show, Astonish the World. It's on the news shelf. That one's exploring female friends, and they're reflecting to say, you know, did we make the right decisions? Should we have done A instead of B in our lives? So that sounds very similar. And then I constantly hear good things about Tell the Wolves I'm Home. I believe it's about family dealing with the loss of one of their sons, and his lover mourns his loss, his sister and his family have to deal with that loss as well. If you like those tearjerkers.
Bleeding Heart Yard is a new novel by Ellie Griffiths. Cassie is a happily married woman who loves her job as a police officer. She closely guards a secret she has all but erased from her memory, until she attends a class reunion with her high-achieving classmates, and the secret begins to come to light. It is in Cassie's interest to skew the ongoing police investigation so that it looks like it has nothing to do with the Manor Park School, and she seems to be succeeding until she doesn't. I brought to share another of Ellie Griffiths, The Nighthawks, and this one is, I believe, an Edgar Award winner. Yes, the Edgar Award for mysteries, so that's one that might get you warmed up for the new one.
The Boy and His Dog, I should say. This one's translated from the Japanese, and this is the author's English language debut. It's described as a tribute to the bond between humans and dogs, and a feel-good tale of survival, resilience, and love. So the setting is Japan in 2011. A devastating tsunami and earthquake has just occurred. With a straightforward narrative structure, this book tells a story about a stray dog who changes the lives of a series of adoptive owners, including a criminal, the wife of a deadbeat husband, a sex worker, and a man dying of cancer, over a 5-year journey toward reuniting with his original owner, who is the boy of the title. The book is written in episodic vignettes and explores themes like trauma, hope, and destiny. Both of the read-alikes I selected are currently checked out, but here they are pictured for you. So if you like books that feature moving human-animal relationships, you might try West with Giraffes by Linda Rutledge. In this one, you have an old man reflecting on his friendship, as he puts it, with 2 giraffes he helped deliver to the San Diego Zoo in 1938.
It is the best.
Excellent book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I even
Great book.
have a giraffe in fabric.
Apparently inspired by true events as well. That's what I read.
Yeah.
Have you all read this one?
Yeah, I love this book.
Did you read that? Okay, we got one.
You need to
It's
read
new
it.
for somebody.
I haven't been around long enough.
And then also in a similar vein, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This one's pretty new, but this one's about a widow's friendship with a giant Pacific octopus at the local
And it
aquarium.
was equally good.
Equally good. There you have it.
No, I haven't read
Oh, yeah,
that.
that's really good.
It must be good because the sun's out.
Yeah. I think, Becky, you read that one too, didn't you? Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Oh my gosh, she found one she hasn't read.
My aunt was not.
Oh, I'm gonna write it down.
And you took that.
The next book up is A Ghost of Caribou by Alice Henderson. This is book 3 in her Alex Carter series. A Ghost of Caribou begins with wildlife biologist Alex Carter answering the call to search for the majestic, all but vanished mountain caribou. A remote camera on the expansive Land Trust for Wildlife Conservation property has captured a blurry image that may be the caribou, which went extinct in the contiguous United States years ago. When she arrives on the scene at the Selkirk Mountains of northeastern Washington state, she ventures into the forest in search of the endangered animal and quickly finds herself in a fight for her life. Caught between local loggers and activists in a clash over a swath of old-growth forest and a murderer stalking the dense groves of ancient trees. Some read-alikes for A Ghost of Caribou. First I brought her first book, Solitude of Wolverines, and which is the main character studies the wolverines in a wildlife sanctuary. This is in Montana, which also has a wild and dangerous landscape for her to survive, and her life depends on staying one step ahead. And then I also grabbed a mystery by Aaron Elkins, The Dark Place. It also takes place in a primeval rainforest of Washington State's Olympic Peninsula, and it features an anthropologist, a murder, and Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Now, is the Alice Henderson book, nonfiction?
No,
No.
It's
no,
fiction.
it's fiction.
Suspense.
Yeah.
This is suspense.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I Have the Light of This World by Michael Parker. In the 70s, Earl, the story's protagonist, is a 17-year-old living in Smyrna, Texas. Due to events that transpired after a wild party gone wrong, Earl is falsely convicted of murdering the girl he was in love with. 40 years later, after spending a lifetime behind bars for a crime he didn't commit, Earl has been released from prison and has to build a new life for himself. This one's described as gritty and gripping and explores themes like loss, redemption, and imagination. A couple read-alikes. First, we have The Risen by Ron Rash, and I'm just going to read the little blurb provided. Estranged for decades after a turbulent 1969 summer spent with a free-spirited redhead, two brothers are forced by a shocking reminder to confront the past events that divided them. And then we have The Flamethrowers by Rachel Kushner. This one's also a more serious novel set in the 1970s. This one's about a young woman who immerses herself in the New York City art scene and develops relationships with some dangerous characters.
So, my read-alikes for this one are gonna take place during the same time period. They're gonna be mysteries about lost family members. These are in a series, but they're shorter series. They're not like Louise Penny's Inspector with the 18 series. You could easily get caught up on these. These are like 3 and 4 in the series. But the Lindbergh Nanny is going to be historical fiction. The most famous toddler abduction of the Lindbergh baby gets a new retelling. Described as gripping and elegant with a masterful blend of fact and fiction. We're going to meet the main character, Betty Gow, who is a Scottish immigrant who is caring for the Lindbergh baby as the nanny when he goes missing. Betty becomes suspect number 1 and must struggle to clear her name.
Up next, we're going to talk about Richard Stratton's Defending Alice, a novel of love and race in the Roaring '20s. Stratton brilliantly evokes this dazzling era in all its glamour and excess, and in retelling the Rhinelander story. He explores issues of sex, race, class, prejudice, and justice that are as relevant today as they were a century ago when this headline-making trial took place. When Alice Jones, a blue-collar woman with at least one black parent, marries Leonard Kip Rhinelander, the son of one of New York's most prominent society families, the scandal rocks high society and eventually sets the city afire when Kip later sues for an annulment, accusing Alice of having hidden her Negro blood and intentionally deceiving him that she was white. This is a historical novel based on a sensational real-life case and of course, is historical fiction.
That was very interesting, I liked it.
You what?
I read that, it was quite interesting.
With what?
Vanishing House.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So the other read-alike for this would be The Personal Librarian. It too deals with a woman of prominence in sort of the high society circle in New York City and abroad, and she is definitely hiding her blackness. She is able to pass for white, and she chooses to do so. And The Vanishing Half also has that same concept at the heart of the story. This is 2 sisters, however, who grew up very, very close, and as adults, they become estranged as one chooses to present herself as white, and the other chooses to stay in her world with her black family. So just the discussion of how that can impact and.
Becky, did you read that one? Yeah, I like that one.
That was very good. It's interesting to, the personal librarian is Marie Benedict, and she, for the first time, worked with a co-author on that book because she realized there are a lot of nuances in the Black community about people who present as white that she did not feel that a white American woman would understand. So she hired a Black co-author, and they actually became very good friends.
I read that one too.
Hmm?
I read that one too.
I know, isn't it good? Yeah. All right, this is my favorite title of all the books I'm talking about today. Can't say I've ever really felt like this, but you know, I can see using it. None of this would have happened if Prince were alive. It's coming up closer to the end of the month on the 22nd. This is by Carolyn Prusa. Thoroughly entertaining and completely relatable. None of this would have happened if Prince were alive is a hilarious, heartwarming story of a woman up to her elbows in calamities and about to drive off the brink of the rest of her life. Ramona's got a bratty boss, a toddler teetering through toilet training, a critical mother, and a cheating husband. And a category for hurricane coming her way in Savannah, which to her is just another item on her to-do list. To this mix, she'll add a neighborhood child, the class guinea pig named Clarence Thomas, and as she struggles to evacuate the town while she's fielding torrential downpour, demands from her boss, and relentless apology text messages from her husband, and a glowing check engine light. She longs for the days when her life was like a Prince song, full of sexy creativity and joy. And some read alikes for this. Colleen Hoover, I mean, good luck getting any of her books, but this one, just saying. All Your Perfects is also, it's a novel about a damaged couple, and asks, can love with a perfect beginning survive lifetime between two imperfect people? And anything by Semple, I chose Today Will Be Different. Eleanor is determined to do better. She wakes up in the morning, she's gonna have a better day. And she finds that her husband has told the boss he's on vacation. He's not. Her child says he's sick and will not go to school. And a buried family secret just might not stay buried. She's got a little bit on her plate too.
We made it to the nonfiction. So the 12-hour art expert, subtitle, everything you need to know about art and a dozen masterpieces. So Noah Charney is an art historian, and in this book he's giving readers an introduction to the world of art, the art trade, and art history, using 12 masterpieces as his plan, his guide. So each chapter of the book is dedicated to one of these 12 pieces of art, and they range from cave paintings to sharks in formaldehyde. I don't know what that's a reference to, but...
I'm gonna guess sharks in formaldehyde.
Oh, you don't think it's figurative?
No. I bet it's modern.
It's a phrase people use, sharks in formaldehyde.
It's a sculpture.
The book is written as a kind of crash course for the untrained who might normally feel intimidated by the topic of art. And it does include a bunch of sharp color reproductions of the masterpieces and related works. And it's written in a fun and entertaining style. So if you're looking for, other general introductions to art for the uninitiated, you of course have Art for Dummies. And I did check, this also, if you're familiar with this book series, they're usually just black and white paper pages, but this does have some nice glossy photos in it, color photos. And then also the art book. This one explores the ideas behind 100 iconic works of art while examining their historical context. I'll show you kind of what the inside of this book looks like. That's kind of layout in general. This is also part of a series of books, Big Ideas Simply Explained. Alright. Cheap Land, Colorado by Ted Conover. So Ted Conover is a journalist who won the National Book Critics Circle Award for his book New Jack, which is about his journey becoming a rookie guard at Sing Sing Prison. Sam Quinones, another journalist who's written books, calls Ted Conover, quote, the gold standard of narrative nonfiction. So that's pretty high praise. In 2017, Conover traveled to the San Luis Valley area of Colorado to explore the lives of flat dwellers. That is, people intentionally living off the grid in isolated areas. What he discovers is a diverse group of people with a variety of reasons for choosing this way of life, from those with pro-gun, anti-government sentiments, to those wanting the ability to grow marijuana legally, to those wanting to escape their pasts. Kirkus calls it a captivating portrait of a community on the fringes. So first read alike is that Nick Jack book that I just mentioned. Also brought The Stranger in the Woods, which some of you may have read, so apparently it was a book discussion book at some point. But that one's about a man who survived alone in a tent in the woods of Maine for 27 years. So, you know, if you want to talk about living off the grid.
Okay, there had to be one. Yes. I think one's pretty good though. This one, it does, this one sounds like an interesting one, something different hopefully. If you have any interest in World War II, here's a new nonfiction for you. This is gonna be the remarkable story of a Jewish orphan who left Germany to go to London, to escape things of course. But in London, since he was German, he was arrested by the British government and sent to an internment camp for foreign suspects. We get to know what went on at Hutchinson Camp on the island of Man, where enemy aliens were kept. So hence the title there on that island for enemy suspects. He's gonna meet a painter, a poet, an heiress, and a spy. He also meets professors and composers and journalists. All sorts of people get stuck in this transitional internment camp in England. So that will be an interesting, different take on an internment camp. I got these other read-alikes. They are about surviving World War II and being rescued. Actually, that one's more specifically this, but I really liked this one, A Game of Birds and Wolves, and it's about the women that helped defeat Nazis during World War II and what they did behind the scenes to help in that manner. So some different takes on the World War II story to check out. My next one is a witch story, perfect for this time of year. The Ruin of All Witches, Life and Death in the New World. It's gonna take place in New England, Massachusetts, of course. It's gonna be a fascinating new look at the witch hunts, specifically focusing on the lives and then the trials of Mary and Hugh Parsons, who were married. Strange things were going on in their community in Springfield, Massachusetts, and the community begins to blame the Parsons, accuse them of witchery, and blame them for all the things going wrong in the community's lives, of course. Unfortunately, I don't think the trial's gonna go very good, but it is definitely an interesting time period to see when they're, you know, looking at haunted things and unexplained things and coming into enlightenment. It's a very interesting time. BBC History and the Sunday Times are raving that this is a bona fide historical classic. Be sure to read this one. I got The Witches, if you need more about that time period. I also got a fictionalized A.K. Blakemore story about a family during the Salem witch trials. So if you need a little fiction take on it or nonfiction, we're here for you either way.
Silent Spring Revolution is the next nonfiction selection. Subtitled, John F. Kennedy, Rachel Carson, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, and the Great Environmental Awakening. And I think there's maybe a whole history lesson in that title. New York Times bestselling author and presidential historian Douglas Brinkley chronicles the rise of environmental activism, telling the story of an indomitable generation that saved the world under the leadership of John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, and Richard Nixon. In Silent Spring Revolution, Brinkley pays tribute to those who combated the mauling of the natural world in the long 60s. That's 1963 to 1970. That's evidently a legitimate historical term. I learned that by writing about this. In the long 60s, that began with Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. Published in 1962, it launched an ecological revolution. The Wilderness Act, 1964, the Clean Air Act, 63 and 70, the Endangered Species Act, 66, 69, and 73, Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, Great Lakes Preservation, and the first Earth Day all happened in this time period. With the United States grappling with climate change and resource exhaustion, Douglas Brinkley's meticulously researched and deftly written Silent Spring Revolution reminds us that a new generation of 21st century environmentalists can save the planet from ruin. So it sounds like this is very timely as well as documenting history. He also gets credit for doing some very nice profiles of people in the period, other than the ones named, also Cesar Chavez, Coretta Scott King, other people who contributed in unique ways to making this all move forward. As Rita likes, of course I brought Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. And I also brought Jane Goodall's new book, The Book of Hope. This was a very popular bestseller, I think earlier this year. She talks about how we can save our planet and about getting along with all the species among us as well. Okay, Edward Humes, The Forever Witness. That's my cheat sheet friends. There it is. The Forever Witness, How DNA and Genealogy Solved a Cold Case Double Murder, by Edward Humes. So a relentless detective and an amateur genealogist solve a haunting cold case and launch a crime-fighting revolution that tests the fragile line between justice and privacy. Genetic genealogy, long the province of family tree hobbyists and adoptees seeking their birth families, has made headlines as a cold case solution machine capable of exposing the darkest secrets of seemingly upstanding citizens. Can we use DNA to catch the murderers among us, yet still protect our last shred of privacy in the digital age? The right to the very blueprint of who we are? Huge questions, I'm sure. The many people who are impacted by this would have way more to say than me, because I've not been, only in a positive way with my genealogy. But we do have a book that was of course checked out. It's called The Lost Family, and it talks about the genetic genealogy and DNA identification. So we ended up with two topics that have big impact on our lives today, and we look forward to our next meeting when we will discuss we'll be to December already next time we meet, the December selection. Also some reminders for from our calendar, our book discussions, book show and tell, and also our big event, Bookmarks Speaking Volumes with Ruth Ozeki, sponsored by the Bookmarks, as always. That's coming up on the 27th. We have a fall shred day as well, so if you want to bring your shredding, come on down. Oh, well, that was a great idea that they had at the campus library, to bring someone from this library in to have a book discussion, but nobody wanted to, they didn't get anyone to sign up. So, it was gonna be the midnight library, which many of us have read. I mean, a good book for discussion, but my personal opinion, they did not ask it. But college students are busy this time of year, and I just thought to read a optional book at the end of a quarter, another semester, coming toward the end of of a term is just, that's a lot to ask. But I invited them to try again. And we will meet once again on the second Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.